are live.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Well, good evening, I should say, for most people. It's still sunlight here in sunny Phoenix, Arizona. Um,
You didn't travel through
correct.
that many time zones from where you were to where you are now that you're that far off, are you?
Oh, three time zones. Three time zones. So I picked up 3 hours today coming home from Flight Fest in Ohio. It was definitely a fantastic experience, and I'm sure Dave and Rob will want to chime in on that a little bit. But we spent better part of 4.5 days helping kids fly, meeting new people, running drone races with Street League, tiny whoop races. We had Hobby Wing out. It was just a great experience overall. I think a lot of people had a lot of fun. We helped a lot of kids, and the really cool part was our little area that we had set up was us, Hobby Wing, and Street League, as well as a wonderful volunteer named Kai, who we spent a lot of time just really helping kids, managing FPV. Getting drones up in the air, helping people with their planes. We got a lot of plane questions as well, but overall, a fantastic experience. Um, we've got some stuff that we want to shift a little bit for next year, but I think each time we do one of these, we learn a lot. We were able to talk legislation with a couple folks and families. So that was a great deal. We got kids on simulators with Drone and with Liftoff. And got to meet a lot of cool people, including Carl Zhao, who made a surprise appearance at Flight Fest. So,
And Carl
uh,
Zhao, he's the HD0, the man
CEO,
behind
yeah,
that company.
yeah, and I'm gonna give him a personal shout out and his guy Steve. My HD zeros had a malfunction at the field. He took my goggles, fixed them overnight, and brought them back to Flight Fest to give to me. So it was a excellent experience all around.
Wow,
So
talk about customer service.
100%.
You were in the right
So
place at the right time for it, but
it sure seems like it, absolutely. So, and then even coming back home and going through TSA, who knew TSA could be such wonderful, wonderful people? I was going through the security checkpoint, and the guy was scanned my bags, obviously, and he's like, "Oh, do you fly drones?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do fly drones." He's like, "Well, you know, I really want to get into flying some drones." And so I stopped and had a little bit of a conversation with two very lovely TSA agents about drones. I actually pulled them out of my bags and showed them and talked to them about Flight Fest, and it was just a wonderful experience all around. So, shout out to those two fantastic TSA agents as well. Dave, you got anything to add on Flight Fest or Rob?
Yeah, I'd just say that thanks again. You mentioned Hobby Wing. Mike Chen of Hobby Wing jumped in, and uh, he's a leader in Street League, and he got the Cleveland chapter to come on down. And we provided some races, and it was relaxed. It was a fly what you brought, and we got a chance to watch Alex fly and Ryan Collette in addition to the Cleveland group. And so our thanks to the Street League organization for participating, as well as Hobby Wing joining us and helping a lot of kids, and also bringing along some cool samples of motors and ESC. So that was on a more of on a FPV side, and if you'll see some videos of the normal combat sessions, it's a very enjoyable event. And as Josh said, the whole focus is to encourage newcomers into the hobby of RC, be it fixed wing or drones. And we increased the drone content for a third year, and next year there'll be even more.
Rob, anything to add, sir?
Yeah, I think y'all hit all the highlights. It was an excellent opportunity, outreach, get out in the community, talk to people about our purpose and our cause. The only other additions I had was also got to rescue some aircraft from trees and the tops of trailers. And we also we had the opportunity to take a few people on FPV ride-alongs, putting them in goggles, letting them fly in audience mode. So yeah, definitely a really cool event. A lot bigger turnout this year in terms of the drone population.
Ever since I made my first paper airplane as a kid, I knew rooftops are aircraft magnets. And trees.
Absolutely.
Alex, you want to throw anything on there? Alex did join us for one day, so it was a pleasure to have him there as well. I think he spent a lot of his time helping one particular gentleman with his radio, but I think we got him up in the air after some trial and error. So
it was a good event. I think you guys pretty much covered everything. So
perfect.
Yeah, nothing else to it. It was fun.
Cool. So I do have a couple articles. Most of it's going to be centered around legislation tonight, but I do want to start off with this fantastic article. I know we've all done it, and it's a new drone that allows you to collide with objects and squeeze through spaces that you normally wouldn't be able to without having to knife edge. And it's called the Flexi Drone. The Morphe Drone, and it utilizes flexible arms to, let me share my screen while I'm talking here. Window. Let's see. So the Mighty Morphin Power Drone uses flexi arms to squeeze through gaps. So quadcopters may be agile, but they're also relatively wide and delicate, limiting their potential uses. The Morphe drone addresses these drawbacks with flexible propeller arms, which allow it to basically just squeeze its way through narrow spaces. Currently in a functional prototype form, Morphe was created by Kostas Alexis, Morten Christian Nisoff, and Paolo De Petris at the Norwegian University of Science and Technology Autonomous Robot Labs. At first glance, the custom-built aircraft looks much like any other compact quadcopter that's equipped with wraparound propeller protectors. Each of the drone's propeller arms, however, is connected to a main body via a 3D printed elastomer joint. Inside each of these joints is a 3D Hall effect sensor. When any of the propellers come into contact with an unyielding surface, the joint in the prop's arm allows it to bend back instead of breaking. A sensor in that arm measures the direction and extent and relays that data to Morphe's onboard 8-core microprocessor. That processor responds by adjusting the thrust of all 4 propellers to compensate for deformation, keeping the aircraft stable and airborne. So I'm going to play, hopefully this video will show up here.
Okay. I don't know if there's any audio with it. We don't hear any, but I don't know if it needs any.
I'll mute it for myself so we can talk. So there is audio here, so you can see it just deforms and squeezes its way through. And then the flight controller, whatever the microprocessor is allowing it to make those modifications in flight to keep it airborne. So
I'm just imagining the poor CPU trying to keep that thing flying as all the arms are bending randomly.
Yeah, you mentioned an 8-core processor. It's usually an Intel or an AMD, so it does not sound like an Arduino or a Raspberry Pi driving it.
Yeah. So thought that was pretty cool there. And let me see if I can kill this. All right. So all in all, pretty cool little thing. Allows you to collide with surfaces, allows you to squeeze through spaces without having to knife edge. Definitely a cool little product with a lot of potential use there. So, all right. Let me close this. So, former Red Cat CEO Alan Evans, who is the CEO of Unusual Machines, advocates for a Chipstyle Act Chips Act style incentives to accelerate domestic drone manufacturers. I apologize, guys. And reduce reliance on Chinese technology. So they say, and this comes from Drone Life, as the U.S. Government considers taking steps to limit the importation of Chinese manufactured drones, it should also consider passing legislation that would incentivize domestic drone producers to innovate their products, said former COO of American drone company Red Cat Holdings. I think that as the U.S. government goes towards eliminating being able to import China's DJI from the marketplace without some additional offset to accelerate or jumpstart domestic manufacturing, you'll see it take a very long time and require more investment down the road to get us to parity. And this is something that Rob and I had a couple discussions about during Flight Fest, where we were talking about the potential DJI bans, which we'll cover here in a minute, and where we're at with those. But in terms of innovating new product, it's just not there yet. And we've discussed this before. There's just nothing to really replace DJI's equipment with. And this is a level of subsidizing drone innovation to potentially get us there. And this is something that I brought up, I think, to you, Rob, when we were talking about that as something that may need to possibly happen. But Evans, who is currently the CEO of aviation component manufacturing company Unusual Machines, said that he thinks in order to help the domestic drone industry, Congress should pass laws similar to the Chips Act, which provides incentives to U.S. microchip makers. Currently, Congress is considering several pieces of legislation meant to limit or curtail the importation of drones manufactured in China, such as the Countering CCP Drones Act and the Drones for First Responders, both introduced by Representative Elise Stefanik. So, thoughts on subsidizing? And I think in my conversations with you, Rob, we were talking about subsidizing instead of banning, right? And so, am I correct in that?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Yeah, we would love to support a blue product, but we're just not there yet. We would take 5 years backward step in technology, at least with the stuff that I've been able to trial and demo.
So, I think, maybe this could be a potential alternative. I would like to see a ban not go through, but at the same time, we do want to develop, a more competitive product here in the United States as we progress down this route. So, this would be definitely an interesting path, and I'd like to see it as an alternative as opposed to in addition to. But thoughts from everybody else on this?
And the other concern that I have too is, when you look at the Part 107, the commercial sector, when you look at the real estate market, the thermal, the inspections, most people don't have 15,000 to drop on an X10. So that's also my concern is, it's not only the recreational sector, which is primarily what our organization focuses on, but also the commercial domestic drone market would be greatly impacted. And that's not even discussing the public safety side of it.
So just in case,
there's to be public safety.
Go ahead, Dave.
I was just going to say I agree, and there's public safety, there's national security, and then there's private industries that would all benefit from an acceleration and subsidies of pure research, as well as subsidizing smaller firms. I mean, that's 70% of the U.S. economy is small companies, and that would be a good way to accelerate growth of the U.S. drone manufacturing.
So for any of those wondering what Rob was talking about, he was talking about the Skydio X10. So this is Skydio is one of those fun websites that doesn't actually publish their retail on their product, and these are limited to commercial and defense, and I definitely assume law enforcement, but they are pricey, right, Rob? He might be busy.
Yeah, they're just over 15,000 if I recall, and about a 4-month lead time.
Oh goodness. Oh wow.
So not
That's
only do you have to
pricey.
have a lot of money, you have to have it ahead of time and wait.
Right.
Waiting for your stuff is no fun.
Absolutely. And here's the deal, guys: is a lot of this stuff, we talk about, having this stuff available. First responders, police, fire, they all utilize this stuff for multiple different applications, whether it be responding to a crime, to search and rescue, um, and by shutting this down, it can cost people lives, and that's a bad way to be. And by not having an affordable alternative and comparable alternative, um, when we talk about banning DJI, that's a bad deal all around. And then not allowing commercial people to do the work, whether it's photography, inspection, agriculture, all those different things. And so, yeah, it's a little bit of a scary thought, I think, at this point.
Yeah, I can throw out a little bit of anecdotal evidence from my experiences this week. For anybody who's been watching the news, if you've seen photos of a lot of flooding and a house falling into the river and stuff, that's like 20 miles downstream or upstream from me, I guess.
Hmm.
So there have been drones in the air around where I live, and every bridge and road and flooding like nonstop for the last few days. And every single one of them that I've seen has been a DJI drone of some variety.
Hmm.
And without that, like, what else are they going to fly? Every news organization, every hobbyist, everybody who's flying around to take pictures, they're all flying something DJI related.
Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to that, and this is something else that came about while we were at Flight Fest. Lawmakers call for declassification of national security risk posed by Chinese-made drones. So we've all heard that Chinese-made drones, to include DJI and Autel, pose a national security risk, and we never have any evidence. So on June 20th, 2024, House Committee on Homeland Security Chair Mark E. Green and House Committee on Energy and Commerce Chair Kathy McMorris Rogers called on the Department of Homeland Security and the Department of Energy to declassify information related to national security threats posed by drones manufactured in the People's Republic of China. The request highlights drones made by DJI and Autel, which together hold a significant share of the global drone market. Um, so if this happens, this could give us the insight that everybody is saying that China bad, right? And again, let's go back to the data. Let's actually figure out what's going on. Is this a significant security risk? Are we going down this path because China bad, or because there's tangible evidence of something going on with these drones? So, Rob, you want to chime in on this a little bit?
That's what we've been asking for all along. Is if there's substantiated, verifiable evidence that it is definitely a threat, then I'm always willing to change my mind when I'm confronted with new information. But so far, nobody's shown the proof. And I would think, with all of this legislation being forefront and center, that if there was hard proof, that it would have been presented, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd love to see it too, because if they can show you evidence, there may be other ways to mitigate it versus just blocking the company. If the drone is somehow sending data back, we could find ways to not do that or to use different software on it. But just outright banning them is like taking the big hammer to the problem and not really fixing the real root of what's wrong.
Yeah, agreed. If it's a software concern, then we banned TikTok. We didn't ban the iPhone. So let's address the software concerns and move forward.
So this is interesting from the chess game that is our Congress. And so these two congressional representatives are Republicans. Elise Stefanik is a Republican. So this is a Republican piece of legislation that's being pushed in the House and the Senate. And here, two Republicans are pressing to say would really like the DHS and DOE to release confidential information. Now, certainly, Representative Stefanik, as the third-ranking representative of the House on the Republican side, has access to all national security information. What's interesting is none of the legislation that we've read has any hints or winks or tips that like this is a real problem. There's more innuendo and assertions that there's a problem. So pretty curious that her own party would be pushing DHS and DOE when we've pressed the FAA for risk assessments. We're pretty sure they did not exist. So could it be that these two congressional representatives feel that nothing exists and it's a smoking gun? In which sense, or in which case, that would just do significant damage to the existing legislation. So an interesting puzzle piece, and of course, it's tough to speculate when you have to guess what's behind the curtain.
Yeah, so they state that they said that Green and Rogers argue that public interest outweighs any justification for keeping these findings classified. They state it has come to our attention that there are findings from Sandia National Laboratories pertaining to national security risks associated with drones that have been produced, manufactured, or assembled in the PRC. The call for declassification follows a series of actions and warnings from various federal agencies regarding the security risks associated with Chinese manufactured drones. In 2017, Homeland Security Investigations issued an alert warning that DJI drones might be providing U.S. critical infrastructure and law enforcement data to the Chinese government. Subsequent measures included a halt in procurement by the DoD and placement of DJI on the Department of Commerce's entity list. The letter concludes with a call for transparency, stating there's a strong public interest in understanding the threats posed by PRC manufactured drones, as several federal agencies and departments have taken considerable action based on classified information. It is well past time that Congress, SLTT law enforcement agencies, and the American public receive answers to questions relating to PRC drones that have remained outstanding for several years. So, definitely interesting. I'd like to see how that pans out. And we'll have to take a look as we hear more on that. So,
do you notice, Josh? It says may expose risks.
Yeah.
So,
and word choice matters in a lot of this stuff, right? So, who knows? I'm open-minded to this. I'm open-minded to everything. So, show me what's going on. Tell us what's going on. Show us the data, and allow us to make an actual educated decision instead of a snap judgment, right? So, so we do know that we may have talked about this 2 weeks ago, but the drone ban, it's the Countering CCP Drones Act, was bundled up into the House version of the 2025 National Defense Authorization Act. So the National Defense Authorization Act, similar to the FAA reauthorization, basically sets out the guidelines for continuing to authorize the defense industry in our country. And that ban, countering CCP, was added into that NDAA on the House side. That NDAA passed the House in a vote of 2017 to 199 and will need to make it through the Senate before seeing the president's desk. The legislation proposes adding DJI to a list maintained by the Federal Communication Commission under the Secure and Trusted Communications Network Act of 2019. This would block DJI's drones from running on communications infrastructure in the United States.
I think the last time we talked about this a couple weeks ago, we knew it was in the House version, but they had not passed it yet. which
Yeah,
now
so
they have.
absolutely. Thank you for that. DJI drones pose the national security threat of TikTok, but with wings, Stefanica said. Oh my goodness. The possibility that DJI drones could be equipped to send live imagery of military installations, critical infrastructure, and the personal lives of American citizens to China poses too great a threat.
They could be.
Uh,
Sure, they could, but are they?
The bill could also revoke FCC authorizations for existing DJI drones, and this is something I brought up. There is some very vague language at the end of the bill that puts this into play, possibly grounding models already in the field. So
Yikes.
there's a potential if you own a DJI drone, it could soon be an illegal drone. So. Obviously, DJI has responded to the Countering CCP Drone Act, calling the bill baseless and xenophobic. A website has been set up to answer questions about DJI, and that's on DJI's own website. So this moves forward, and I'd like to see some information come out before this gets finalized. I'd like to see some data, and I think everybody's kind of in agreement on that. So. All right, so here's fun. Plot twist. China is urging its drone pilots to not leak state secrets. So, this is funny. China's top anti-espionage agency has issued a stern warning to drone, and in China, stern is stern, to drone users to ensure their activities do not result in the leakage of state secrets. This warning from the Ministry of State Security, a part of the broader initiative by the Chinese government to bolster its counter-espionage efforts, comes at a time when the U.S. Is deciding its stance on China-manufactured DJI drones. According to the report in the South China Morning Post, and the MSS warning came in response to multiple recent incidents of drone users inadvertently leaking sensitive information. For instance, a man was jailed for a year for illegally photographing a new warship and bragging about it on military forums. Another drone user employed with an aerial surveying agency was found to be using his work drone without permission to collect photos and data from a confidential area, causing key technical security risks. In yet another incident, a drone surveying professional was caught using a self-assembled drone to take photographs in an unauthorized area. That flight was detected by military radar, but not before the military wasted some $16,500 identifying the drone. So it's not surprising that the MSS is coming down hard on drone users. In addition to requiring pilots to get competency certifications and obtain official approval to fly in restricted areas, the government is asking that all surveying and mapping activities be undertaken only after obtaining certification. Moreover, foreign-owned or operated drones are no longer allowed to carry out surveying and mapping, radio wave testing, and similar activities within China. It's worth mentioning that the country's increased concern over data security and the protection of state secrets aligns with the broader global trend of heightened vigilance over technological espionage. In the U.S., Chinese drone maker DJI is facing a potential ban for its data practices and potential risks to national security. So that's absolutely hilarious. And so good on drone DJI for finding that. That's incredibly funny to me.
Yeah, it's not like the DJI drones don't need to leak secrets back to China if people willingly
Post it on
videotape
social
things and post it anyway, right?
Right. So that's good times.
Yeah, it's funny unless you're in China trying to use a drone.
Yeah.
Some 35 years ago, my brother-in-law was on a bus in China, and he saw a couple of military vehicles that he thought were interesting, and lifted up his 35 millimeter camera and took a couple photographs at the next bus stop. A policeman got on the bus, walked back to him, asked for his camera, removed the film, exposed it to light, and handed back the film and camera. I can't imagine living or working there.
Oh my goodness. That's hilarious. So anyway, that's all I have for this evening. Dave, anything from you, sir?
Nothing else for me. That just trying to get back into the swing of things after a week in Ohio, and my thanks to we had more than 120 volunteers working at Flight Fest. They're fantastic. They kept people safe in the extreme heat, kept people patched up, thanks to a trauma doctor and a number of nurses, and the whole event was really well handled and delightful.
Absolutely. Rob, you got anything, sir?
The only thing I could have missed it. Did you mention the new bill that was introduced by John Tester, the Montana guy?
I did not. Would
Okay.
you like to talk about that?
Yeah, I can brief it real quick. So, we were told originally, in fact, I was told from Senator Cornyn's office here in Texas that there was no companion bill on the Senate side. I learned a few days ago. In fact, it was at Flight Fest when I told you and Dave about it. There is a bill now sponsored by John Tester that is basically a version of the Countering CCP Act. So we do know that there is some similar language on the Senate side. How it's going to go, where it's going to go, if it's going to be embedded in the NDAA, we still don't know yet. They're kind of secretive about all this. So as soon as we know, obviously we'll share that information.
All right. Let's see. Senator John Tester will introduce a bill Thursday. This is from a couple days ago. To crack down on Chinese-made drones in a bid to protect privacy and increase national security. A version of the Countering CCP Drones Act has had bipartisan support in the U.S. House, but has met resistance from the Chinese company it targets, DJI. Let's see. Defending them. Yeah, it doesn't really talk about. Sorry, I was just quick pulling stuff. I know you sent me an article, but it's on my phone. So, apologies on that.
I do want to highlight in that article, I'm going to quote it, I'm reading it. Cheap Chinese drones are flooding the American market, costing American jobs and putting privacy and security at risk. That's not taking into account the American jobs that we were talking about a while ago in the commercial sector, all the roofing, the thermal, the real estate, all the jobs that would be lost potentially. So they're looking at the manufacturing, but not at the broad picture of drone integration here in the airspace.
Yeah.
Also curious as that article passed by, Senator Tester is talking about that he's concerned about Montana, which that is where he was elected, but our 100 senators are supposed to have a cross United States focus, not just look back at their home state. So here we go.
All right, Alex, anything from you, sir? Nope. Okay. And Dan, anything from you, sir?
Well, Alex just took his microphone off of mute just to say he has got nothing. Is that right? Oh, I can see he's trying to talk, but he's not on mute, but I can't hear him anymore.
All right.
For some reason,
Oh, there you go.
He's just not
He
loud
lives.
enough.
it's working. I don't know. what that
Okay.
was.
I
But-
think he's saying for some reason it's not working.
That's not just
Now we can hear you.
But summer GQ is up. That's pretty much it, I think. So. Yeah.
What are the
GQ
schedules
season.
of that?
Depends on your local chapter, but your local chapter can put up the summer GQ track, and so the second opportunity this year to qualify for the global championships.
So search on MultiGP, look for your local chapter, go to local
Yes.
races, start racing. It was a delight to watch Alex fly, as well as the Street League folks. But really great stuff. Very tempting for me to get into that, but I am looking for that over 60 class.
Well, they have over 50 at IO.
I know they're kids, you know.
That's hilarious.
Well,
All right, guys.
I really don't
go
have
ahead, Dan.
I don't have anything really interesting to add. Just last few days I've been using my drone to go fly around, check out the floodwaters, take pictures and videos, mostly share them with family and friends that aren't in the area to see where everything's flooded and all the roads that are closed. So I live in a small town that's got a couple highways that go through it, and 3 out of the 4 main directions are all closed and flooded and bridges closed, and so there's only one way in and out of town these days. So it's
No,
very
dude.
interesting. It's great to be able to have a drone and throw it up in the air and see where the water is and why things are closed and how flooded the roads are, and get a good perspective on things. And news companies are flying their drones all over, putting their live footage on the evening news. Very very busy. It's like one of the few times I've ever popped open the uh, the AirView map stuff, and it'll say, "Oh, yeah, there's drone activity in this area." It's like, "Oh, wow!" And it wasn't me this time; it was somebody else. And you go sit down and you take off with the drone, and people start talking to you, and next thing you know, a guy 5 feet over takes off with their drone, and you hear buzzing all over the place. So, been interesting.
I
The only
hope you and your family are able to continue to stay safe. Very scary stuff with flooding.
Yeah, we live halfway up on the hill of the valley, so where we're at is fine. But down the main highways are down at the bottom of the valley where all the flooding is and all the bridges to get across the river. So, like people I work with that live on the other side of the river that would normally have a 3 or 4 mile commute to work now have 30 and 40-mile commutes to go
goodness.
around to get to work. It's
Oh my goodness.
mostly just a big inconvenience for the
That's
most
good.
part. Except for the people who have houses that are being flooded, or that dam that the water decided to go around the dam and then take out the house near the dam and things like that. That's unfortunate for those people. But the rest of us, it's just a big inconvenience.
Fair.
There was also a comment by XJet earlier tonight in YouTube asking us about the letter that somebody got from the FAA for not having remote ID on their drone. Been on vacation and not been really looking at the news like that lately, but I didn't know if any of you had heard anything about that.
No, I have not. Let me.
So
Very interested. Yeah.
sounds
Next
like
chat, if you could get us a link to that, it would be grateful.
sounds like if nothing else, the FAA is at least doing some sort of enforcement on remote ID. I don't know if that person broke some other rules to get their attention first or what.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
we'll keep our eyes open and look for it.
Yeah, if we can get a link to that, that would be fantastic. But sounds like we predicted something like this would happen, where the FAA starts cracking down on remote ID. So there's a number of options out there for everybody to utilize, and don't get caught without that. I would say. Letters are fantastic. It's the FAA has stated that they will take an educational approach initially. But what happens after that? It's probably won't be pleasant. So, all right, guys, I'll give you back 20 minutes of your evening. I thank you for joining us tonight, and I appreciate. Everybody for dealing with some of our tiredness from our trip to Flight Fest. But I believe it was a massively worthwhile experience for the team, worthwhile experience for the people that we were able to help, and for the technology that we were able to show and provide to young minds and people who have been doing this type of stuff for a long time. I think it reaches across generations, and I appreciate everybody. So please keep doing what you're doing. Get out and fly, and have some fun while you're at it, and stay safe. And yeah. So with that, thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate your time. And we'll see y'all in another 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Fly so high, I'm hypnotized. What's up is down, what's left is right. Chasing stars and holding you. I can't see the end, but we'll see it through. Flying, get on board. We're smiling on top of the world. Dangerous times, don't fly too high. Be sure to keep the ground in sight.